Hello, and welcome to the North Coast Journal Preview. This is a show where we take a look at the current edition of the North Coast Journal. My name is Matt Knight, and I am in for Dave Frank this week, and I am also joined by Pat Greenson, who is the news editor of the North Coast Journal, and Jennifer Fumiko Cahill, who is the arts and features editor of the North Coast Journal. Welcome, guys.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
You know, I'm doing all right, although being thrust into this position is always a little nerve-wracking for me, but I will try and muddle through as best as possible.
We are here for you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here with us.
Thanks. That's really improving my confidence. So let's start off with you, Jennifer, and talk about what is on the cover of the journal this week.
All right. Humboldt County moms, you can stop calling me because the Summer of Fun issue is here. All kinds of parents actually have been checking in and being like, when is the Summer of Fun coming out? Are you doing that again this year? And if you have not seen it before, it is our annual list of all of the summer camps and classes and stuff that you can send the kids to in those coming months, the gaping maw of summer that approaches, and all that free time. So we're going to help you fill that by including all of the camps and whatnot that we could get our hands on to share with you. And that includes stuff that's run by different cities, City of Eureka, City of Arcata, etc. Sports and athletics. We'll go over some highlights, but it's essentially like everything up for grabs. It's not just outdoor camps and, like the sort of camp maybe that, we think of with knee socks and campfires and stuff.
I got to say that camps have come a long way since my day.
Yeah.
I went to Whittiok Day Camp, and they specialized in making lanyards and things out of popsicle sticks. But I mean, I see things on this list like monster making and introduction to sociology.
I highlighted that one too. And yes, it has been a long time since I went to camp myself. And I must say that the camp that I was ejected from was extremely traditional, outdoor, fun kind of a thing. But there's all kinds of stuff in here. I mean, of course, all right, there's, what do we have? Marsh Explorers Science Camp. So a little twist on the outdoor part. We have lots of stuff where people go like forest camp or, going all over the myriad outdoor spots in Humboldt County. You can explore the dunes, you can explore the forests, all that stuff. But there's a lot of kind of indoor stuff too, which on the weird rainy season that we're having these days, doesn't sound like a bad idea. The Intro to Sociology camp, I'm like, can I go to that? Because I think I skipped that in college. Yeah, there's that, and there's an algebra camp.
I saw that. I mean, I'm glad there is one, but for me, that would have been like the seventh circle of hell.
Yeah.
But times have changed.
My parents would have had to be really mad to send me to algebra camp.
Yeah, please send me to do an undercover story on algebra camp. I'm not going to be solving for why anytime soon, but Redwood Curtain Theater is having a bunch of camps this summer, which include all kinds of like acting stuff, all kinds of drama stuff, dance stuff, and my personal favorite, unarmed stage combat, ages 14 and up. Because let's face it, your 14-year-old at home is going to spend their summer fake fighting with their siblings. Please be fake. Anyway, so you might as well send them. Somebody else can watch your kids fight in someone else's living room.
I also see here how to be a movie extra.
Yes, how to be a movie extra.
I think that involves like a folding chair and having your lunch in a cooler.
Yeah. And I think whispering watermelon.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, let's start making some money on these kids, shall we? Let's get a little return on the investment. We didn't make them cute for nothing. There's also all kinds of, well, we mentioned the nature and science stuff, but under the sports and athletics, there is the now legendary Basketball Jones camps, always coming back. There is the surf camp, the skate camp, and our personal favorite, the Humboldt Crabs camp. Who can say no to Humboldt Crabs camp?
I want to go.
Right?
What's the cutoff?
I'm looking at it and it doesn't say specifically. You might find yourself in a very awkward age group. Youth baseball.
Yeah, no, I don't qualify for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's got to be cheaper than fantasy baseball camp, right? But it's really kind of great. We have all of these resources, and I urge you to flip through it, find the stuff that your kids might be interested in, and make sure to contact the venue that you're interested in to find out about COVID protocols before you sign up, because you want to know exactly what you'll be doing. And, depending on how the summer goes, I knock wood, things could change. So it's always a good idea to get in contact with folks and know exactly what you're getting into, beyond just the nuts and bolts of pricing and location and stuff like that. But it's pretty great. And for, those of us who remember the dark days of lockdown, make sure your kids can get outside and get something else to do this summer.
Awesome. Well, as much as I'd like to explore what got you kicked out of summer camp, I think we should move on to Thad's story. Thad, we've had a report delivered in regards to Arcata City Councilman Brett Watson, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about what they found or what their findings included.
Yeah, so I think regular viewers, listeners, and readers will recall back in October, the Arcata City Council kind of blindsided the public with a special closed session meeting at which Brett Watson, then the mayor, was stripped of his mayorship, and the balance of the council issued a no confidence vote in him, citing kind of unspecified alleged conduct that the council, quote unquote, couldn't stand behind and needed to kind of take action on. And shortly thereafter, Watson announced that he was going into a residential treatment program. And there wasn't kind of a whole lot more information that was out. We submitted a Public Records Act request at the time and got some text messages between council members kind of talking about what to do with the situation. And it was clear from those that kind of some allegations had surfaced somewhat suddenly that the balance of the council found really shocking and off-putting, and they felt that kind of immediate action was needed on. And so in the wake of that, the council or the city hired an investigative firm, Kramer Workplace Investigations, to kind of look into these allegations. And this report came back, and so we submitted a Public Records Act request for it. And what we got back was a really exhaustive, it's a 28-page report that comes with hundreds of pages of supporting evidence for more than 600 pages total. That essentially this investigation sustained allegations that Watson had, essentially engaged in a prolonged campaign of sexual harassment and workplace harassment against a city employee, and goes into a fair amount of detail about what that harassment looked like in practice over the course of more than 2 years.
So before we go into some of the details of this report, how unusual is it for an outside law firm being brought in to investigate an elected official of this kind? It's routine, or is this just something that happens in extraordinary circumstances?
It's, unfortunately, it's something that we've seen a bit of here in Humboldt County. There have been third-party investigations into the county auditor controller and a county supervisor over some allegations made by the auditor controller. But honestly, those instances in this are the only ones I can recall in close to 20 years of reporting here on the North Coast. It's very rare, and it's rarer still for the findings of the investigation to be made public in this kind of way. But because the finding was that these allegations were sustained, and that according to the investigation, the council member, the elected official, had engaged in misconduct, by law, it is something that has to be disclosed.
So let's talk a little bit about what the findings are and what kind of conduct that the report dug up.
Yeah, so the report essentially found that Brett Watson, for lack of a better term, became fixated with a specific kind of senior employee in the city of Arcata, and first just engaged in a pattern of behavior that included texting her after hours, texting her on the weekends, calling her on after hours and on the weekends, and oftentimes to discuss things in his personal life, not city business. Which the report found was inappropriate for a council member who is essentially this employee's boss. This employee who's unnamed in the report, is answerable to the city council. So Councilmember Watson is one of her 5 bosses. And so that's where it starts. And then, there's some stuff about unprofessional workplace demeanor, just as far as him lashing out at staff and being rude and curt and things like that. But where things really, go off the rails, for lack of a better term, is at some point after he became mayor I think it was in early 2020, he essentially professes that he has romantic feelings for this employee, that he has, I think he deems it a crush at one point, and other folks say that, he has become kind of romantically obsessed with her. And the employee, this comes to the employee's attention, and she decides at that point not to tell other people about it. And that, out of a desire to just kind of make it work and make Brett Watson successful as a council member and make the city council successful and kind of further the city's business, that this is something that she will just navigate with him. And so she repeatedly throughout rebuffs any advances, makes clear to him that she feels like anything beyond a professional relationship with him is inappropriate, but kind of continues this dialogue. And one of the undercurrents through this whole thing is that really, I think the text messages between Watson and this employee that were released as a part of this investigation, and there are more than 400 pages of them, really give the public a lot of insight into what they were talking about, what they're communicating about, and what Brett Watson was going through at the time. And they really paint a picture, in my mind, of somebody who is going through some severe mental health issues, severe depression. He is, he's having marital problems, he's having other family problems, and is really leaning on this employee to help him through it. And at certain points, is saying things to this employee that, telling her that she is his best friend, that she is the only reason he's been able to improve and get through some of the situations. And it really appears to become somewhat of a manipulative situation where, intentionally or unintentionally, he is making the employee feel like she can't withdraw from these communications without putting him in jeopardy, without risking his mental health, or even really risking kind of a more serious outcome. And so they come across just as tremendously manipulative and putting this employee in a really horrible situation.
Right. And that would, I guess, explain why this went on for quite some time. I think the period here is 2019 to 2021 into late into 2021. So that's quite an ordeal we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And things only really kind of come to a head and get to the point where we're at now is because in the fall of 2021, Brett Watson, this employee, and another council member go on a trip to a League of Cities conference in Sacramento. And during this trip, there's an incident at dinner that the details of aren't terribly important, I don't think, but kind of the employee and Watson have a verbal altercation where she really lays down kind of some firm boundaries in front of this other council member. And then Watson is distressed and talks to the other council member that night, and apparently very much opens up with the other council member about his feelings for the city employee, about the nature of the relationship over the previous 2 years, to the point where the following morning, the other council member comes to the city employee and says, he is really obsessed with you. This is really unhealthy, and like, you need to talk to the city attorney about it. We need to kind of take next steps here. This isn't appropriate. And so at that point, the employee does take the matter to the city attorney, who then brings the rest of the council into the loop, leading to the no confidence vote and the third party investigation.
Oh boy. So I see that we've got a Arcata City Council meeting coming up on the 17th, I believe it is.
I think it's the 16th, actually.
16th, okay. Any feeling for what's going to happen at this particular meeting, or?
No, I mean, this is a really complicated situation moving forward because as an elected official in the city of Arcata, the council can't fire Brett Watson. They can't do anything beyond really the vote of no confidence that they've already issued, which is just kind of a public reprimand. But they have no ability to remove him from office. So he is up for re-election in November. So this matter will come before voters. But for the 6 months between now and election day, there's really not much the city can do. Some cities in their city codes have kind of an impeachment clause that allows the balance of a council to vote somebody out of office, essentially, or remove somebody. Arcata doesn't have that. So what's going to be a real challenge for the city moving forward is how to continue governance and how to continue keeping kind of, the train on the tracks as far as the city is concerned and city projects moving forward, when you have 1/5 of the city council who, for very obvious reasons, can't work with a crucial member of city staff in what is a small city government. And, it's not like this is a huge organization where, these functions of this one city employee can be delegated. And so it's going to be pretty complicated moving forward.
Quite the mess.
Mm-hmm. So, and I should add that, certainly the one way that the situation could be alleviated is that one of these people could leave, that Brett Watson could resign his post and leave city government, or the city employee could leave. The city employee has been pretty adamant that she doesn't want to, and others have very much come to her support. They don't want her to leave the city. But I'll say that, Brett Watson, in a brief comment to us, was adamant, saying that he has never harassed anyone in his life, I think was the exact quote he gave us, and that he has not read the report, but he disputes kind of any of the allegations against him. So it does not seem as though he is in any way entertaining leaving office.
And so forgive me for not being up on this, but he is a candidate for office for come November?
Well, not officially. The filing period for Arcata City Council hasn't opened yet, so he hasn't filed the paperwork and stuff like that. But all indications prior to this were that he intended to seek re-election. I don't believe that he's commented on it kind of since the report came out.
I see. Okay. Well, thanks for following this story. And we'll just have to see what happens, I guess. But boy, interesting.
Yeah, it's a mess, and more to come for sure.
It's a crazy read. And it's like, 10 different kinds of toxic workplace are outlined in this report. And, Kim Ware did a great job of, laying everything out. And obviously all of it, from this gigantic report can't fit in there. But it really is, it's alarming to read. And, for people who've come from rough workplaces and stuff, I'm sure a lot of women are going to recognize this, pattern of trying to set boundaries and having those boundaries trampled all over, as is alleged in the report. And it's worth reading for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks to you and to Kim for doing that. So, Jennifer, making a transition here from this to rice.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk to you about rice. I pretty much always want to talk about rice.
Like,
For real.
who doesn't want to talk about rice?
I know. I have known people, I won't name names, but I have known people who felt that rice was like a waste of real estate in their stomach as opposed to other things.
What sad people they must be.
I know, it's very sad. I have converted at least one. But rice being, such a staple and such a basic part of so many diets, particularly Asian people's diets, Wendy Chan has come in to share one of her favorite rice recipes. And I just want to take a moment. Let's have a moment of silence for people right now who are like paleo and no carb. Very sad for you. It's rough. It's rough. I have to say, of crazy, health kicks that I've been on or whatever, the one where I couldn't eat rice, I thought I was going to die. I was like, who am I anymore? And, she mentions that among some Chinese elders, they still greet each other by saying, have you eaten rice yet? And I know lots of people come from families where the first thing they say when you're in the door is, have you eaten yet? Right. And, in Japanese, the word for meal is rice. We go out and eat, French food or something. And then sometimes, like Japanese people, after a big meal or something, after steak, they'll turn to each other and be like, do you guys want to go get some rice? Just kind of doesn't feel like you ate unless you had rice. But what's kind of great, there are a couple of things that are great about this recipe. One is it's a lot of chopping, like that kind of prep work, cutting up. She uses kohlrabi in this, which is great. You can also use broccoli stems, but it's that crunchy, sweet, bright part. Don't throw out your broccoli stems. Broccoli stems are great. You just slice them like little coins or cut them into little tiny pieces and stir fry them with everything else. Don't just buy the florets. The broccoli has so much more to offer you. But this involves chopping up, lupchang sausage, Chinese bacon, dried shrimp, dried and reconstituted shiitake mushrooms. You can substitute in chicken. You can do different things. It reminds me a little bit of something I grew up eating, takikomi gohan, but hers is this wonderful, imagine doing fried rice, but not frying the rice. So what she does is she gets all these ingredients together and she fries them in honestly not that much oil. And then when the rice is almost done, about 90% done, just a couple minutes left on your rice cooker or just almost done in a pot on the stove, then she dumps those contents, which are seasoned and fried and tasty and fragrant, on top of the rice and puts the lid back on. And then you kind of let the rice finish and then toss it before you serve. And what it does is it distributes that flavor. And in the case of the stovetop rice, which I am just too lazy to do, I'm just sorry. When the stovetop rice forms that wonderful brown crust on the bottom, I do have a rice cooker that forms the brown crust because I'm lazy, but I do plan ahead. And it makes this wonderful, flavorful kind of distillation, right? Kind of like pan drippings, the most delicious part of gravy. And you sort of toss it together, put green onions over the top and serve it. And it has everything in it. It's got a little seafood, it's got a little meat, it's got some vegetables in it. The name of it in Chinese or in sort of common parlance is oil rice, which I can see how that's not maybe the most attractive food name. One of my favorite things, konnyaku, translates to devil's tongue root jelly. Translation doesn't always do us favors. So no. She is calling it here country braised rice, which doesn't that sound fancier,
nice.
Right?
Appetizing, yeah.
Right? Super appetizing. Although with family, she still calls it oil rice. And she did text me and be like, do you want some of this oil rice? And I have to say, maybe one of the best editorial experiences of my life was eating it while editing her story. It was awesome. But it's a great recipe and it's weirdly simple. And if you have to substitute things, like if you don't have Chinese bacon on hand, again, moment of silence for you. But also, you can substitute in other things. You would not be crazy to look for other proteins. You could make this vegetarian. It'll be, of course, very different by using more of the reconstituted vegetables, the turnip, mustard green, pickled mustard green that she has in there. You can sort of use your imagination, but the basic method of frying the bits and the fragrant items together and then tossing it on top of nearly cooked rice is kind of genius. It's wonderful. And I'm so happy that she's sharing it with us.
It's making me hungry. I'm going to have to go out and find some rice now. That's all there is for it. Well, terrific. That's really good. And you can find that recipe and much, much more in the North Coast Journal this week. Current edition is now on newsstands and online as always 24/7 at northcoastjournal.com. Thad and Jennifer, thanks so much for being here. And Dave will be back next week. And I think things will be slowly but surely returning to normal.
Thanks for sitting in with us, Matt.
Right.
Thank you.